Welcome everyone to SEO Office Hours. My name is Michael Chidzey. I'm an SEO here at Good Signals, and part of what we do, along with special guests, are these office hours sessions where people can jump in and ask their questions around their website and web search. By the way, nobody here is in the hot seat and we might not know all the answers, but multiple heads thinking about a problem should help. We've got a bunch of questions submitted already, as you can see, which we'll go through. But if anybody in the call would like to ask any questions, feel free to just flag yourself in the chat and Joe will be monitoring. Also, if you want to share your insights, perspectives, stories, experiences, also feel free to do that on the chat. The more, the better. And like every week, with me is Joe Juliana Turnbull, also known as SEO Joe Blogs. Morning, Joe.
Hello. Hi, everyone. Good to be on the show today. We have got a great lineup. I'm SEO Joe Blogs. I'm the founder of a remote digital marketing consultancy called Turnbull, and I also organize events such as Search London and Search Barcelona. And I'm really pleased that on the show today we have two members from the Digital Marketing Union, an initiative set up by Dan White. It's about having freelancers and entrepreneurs connect together. So really happy to have Silvia Martin and Rushton McGregor join us for today's SEO Office Hours. Kyle is actually an expert in GA4. He's also very well known within the SEO industry. And you spoke at Search London last month as well. So thank you very much for that. You've also spoken at a few other events as well, such as MeasureFest and Brighton SEO. And you have got a very insightful and very useful course about GA4. So please do drop that in the chat so other people can learn from you.
I'll drop that in the chat before I forget.
Thank you very much. And I'd also like to say a warm welcome to Silvia Martin. She is the founder and SEO consultant at Turnbull Marketing. She's actually an international SEO and tech SEO consultant, as well as being a trilingual marketing professional. She has a degree from Spain and also a master's degree in international marketing from Paris. Thank you very much, Silvia, for joining us on the show today. And you've also been a regular attendee and is a regular attendee of Search London.
Yes, I am. Yeah, I do enjoy Search London. And thank you. Thank you for having me.
Good. If anyone has any questions, like Mike said, please do add them in the chat and I will be taking those questions. This is an interactive session, so please do drop them in. And Silvia as well, if you would like people to get hold of you as well after the show, please drop in your details there.
Great. I love the Christmas jumper, the Christmas hat. I feel a bit like Scrooge right now. I've got a red mug. So that's kind of part of it.
This is just my hat from December onwards.
Hat, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
We will have the proper Christmas jumper. So if anyone's joining us next week, we'll be doing that on Friday. So get these little out of the closet and bring that in for next Friday.
Super. And I actually saw Kyle speak a few weeks ago at Search London, and you were really good talking about GA4. It's going to be a great session. Excuse me, I've got a bit of a sore throat. It's Christmas party season, so I was on 2 yesterday. I've got 1 today. Yeah, just talking in a loud environment.
Well, I'm just going to say, just before you get your questions ready, I just want to say a big welcome to everyone that's joined us today. We've got quite a big audience today, and also for those that perhaps are not logged in that will be joining us later. A big thank you to Anders for joining, Karina, Hannah, Samantha, Sophie, Bukoshi, Isaac, Chris, and Vin, as well as others that are joining later.
Great. Should we get cracking?
Yes.
Let's do it. Okay. First question is, how effective are forum posts as a link building strategy? Joe, why don't we start with you? I did this last week.
Yes, you did, but I do improv, so it's totally fine. And actually, Mike joined me at an improv session one time in Barcelona.
I did.
It was really good. So in terms of how effective are forum posts as link building strategy, back ages in the day, that probably was effective, but it is not at the moment, no. If you do have a blog, if you have a website and you have an engaged community and you have people talking about a similar problem, it is always good to actually have that, but as an actual link building strategy, no, it does not work.
Does anybody else want to add to that?
No, I do agree with...
Go on, Sylvia, sorry.
Now, I was going to say that I agree with Joe. That's something that was working a long time ago, but yeah, I won't recommend it right now as a technique. Yeah.
Kyle, you agree?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, 100%. If you're spending your time looking at forum posts from 2012 and thinking adding a link is going to help your SEO, you're going to have a bad time.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
Yeah, try and do something more constructive.
I agree. I think the only time that is useful is if it's in a community where, say, for instance, there's a question that might rank and then you know the answer. Sometimes I answer those things on things like Quora or other places, but not for link building, just to be helpful. And actually, in most cases, I don't even put a link there. It's just help out. And I'm sure if it helps, then they'll click the profile and so on. No, from me, no for link building, but yes to answering people's questions. I think that can still be helpful. Okay, cool. Well, I think that's the quickest first question we've ever answered. So this could be different. We might actually get through all the questions today. Next question. We've hired an agency to help us with our website migration. Any tips on things to ask? So just to clarify, it's not asking, they've already hired the agency. So it's not asking, it's not trying to work out which agency to hire for migration. It's more during the process. So before, during, and afterwards, what questions should they be asking their agency? Sylvia, would you like to start?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So my advice in this case will be like the most important thing is the communication, right? So they need to have ongoing communication during the whole process. So before starting, they need to know the plan. What is the plan that they're going to do? And also it will depend on the kind of migration, because they are not saying if it's like a domain migration, platform, or so it will depend all the things that they will need to do depending the kind of migrations. But yeah, still communication is the first thing that they need to have, knowing the plan. So the agency, they need to tell them, okay, we're planning to do these kind of actions to do the migration. So transparency, right, about everything that they're going to do, and have several meetings. Also, like the time frame, they need to have. It depends on how big is the migration, the kind of migration. Can take months doing the migrations. Yeah, they really need to understand the timeline also of all the actions. And also if something goes wrong, they also need to have a kind of rollback plan. So they need to ask for that also to the agency. And if there's like changes in URLs, usually there's URL mapping. They need to know, okay, this is the old URL, is going to be like 301 redirect to these new URLs. So they will need to have that also, like the mapping of the URLs. And then on the day, they need to plan which is the day of the migration, and they need to plan it obviously in a day that is not busy for the business. And then, yeah, do all the, I hope they have SEO people involved.
Yeah.
Because it's the agency. I don't know if it's a developer agency or an SEO agency also. So I hope it's SEO agency.
I'm assuming it's an SEO agency.
Okay.
We'll assume it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Yeah, so they will need on the day do all the crawls, checking that everything is going well. And then if not, yeah, they have the backup plan. And then, yeah, after all the crawling and checking that everything, the content, whatever it is that they are changing is now the right version. And then after the migration, they still need to be in touch with them to monitor. And because sometimes there's little things that they are not maybe finished, right? Like maybe there's some links that they forgot to change, or the same, it depends on the kind of migration. But yeah, there's things that they need to monitor also at the end to see that everything, also the traffic. And another good idea, maybe Kyle can talk more about it, is also at the same time monitor your analytics. So it depends if it's a new domain, maybe they need to start monitoring like the new domain. And then once they do the migration, check that everything, all the metrics are going well.
Amazing. What a segue to Kyle on.
Unbelievable. Yeah, we didn't even practice this beforehand. That was brilliant. 100% Sylvia. I think you'd want to ask the question at the start is what are the kind of metrics we're going to use to benchmark the success of the migration, and ask them what success looks like so you can get to know what the metrics are, and then ask them how are you going to track those, what's the measurement tool you're going to use, and then make sure that they are tracking those metrics before the migration and then after the migration. And I think as well, ask them how they're going to manage. In Universal Analytics, you used to have something called annotations that doesn't exist in GA4 anymore, unfortunately. But you used to be able to say, oh, the migration occurred this time. We did these redirects at this day. How are they going to track those key moments against the metrics that they're tracking against? I think those are key to questions to ask.
Yeah. Joe, have you got anything to add?
No, I think they summed it up quite well. But the point that Carl mentioned about the annotations, I think it will be interesting to know, and I'm sure you guys can find out too in the GA4 course, what are some of the big differences actually between old Universal Analytics and GA4. Disappointing to hear that annotations has been removed, because that actually was quite useful.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I was going to say, Carl, just on that, what are you using now to track things like that with clients? Any sort of major changes? Is there any particular tools that you're using?
Yeah, so particularly for annotations, I am using Looker Studio. So I'm blending a Google Sheets. It sounds more difficult than it is, but I'm blending a Google Sheets document with analytics. So the Google Sheets document will note down all of the key things we want to track, and then you can blend that in Looker Studio so you can see, oh, we did this, made this change, and you can track it against sessions. Also really useful I've done a similar thing for Google algorithm updates. So I've created a Google Sheets document that tracks all the algorithm updates and then connected that to Search Console. So you can check in Looker Studio if you can see any fluctuations with any particular algorithm update. So that's the solution I'm using at the moment, is blending Google Sheets and in Looker Studio.
Right.
That's very interesting. Yeah. And I just wanted to ask also about your course. Does that go into that too? About blending data?
It doesn't, but the course has one of the bonus contents is the Looker Studio dashboard that I just referenced, the algorithm
Okay.
updates and the Google Sheets. You can buy that separately for £2 if you really want to, but yeah, it's a bonus piece of content in the course. But it's a
Okay,
great
cool.
thing to reference, Joe. So maybe I should put that in the course.
Okay, no, that's good. It sounds like there's a little bit more actually with GA4 that we need to do now. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you very much.
So just on the original question around, we've hired an agency to help us with our migration. Any tips on things to ask? One of the things I think I would do, because before I started this agency, I used to work in-house. And something that we used to do for anything we worked on, not just migrations, but doing things like, we used to call them like pre-mortems. So we used to get key stakeholders around the table and just imagine what could possibly go wrong. What is everybody worried about? And then we take sort of 10, 15 minutes, huge sheets of paper and so on, and make loads of notes. And so you've got all kind of key people from SEO to other parts of marketing to the CEO, just literally writing everything that they think could possibly go wrong. And then we just work through those problems until we've gone literally through all of them, where we work out how can we prevent those problems from happening. And so I found like sessions like that can be really useful. And so in the case of with working with an agency, I would suggest seeing if they would do something similar, or think about all the things you're worried about and ask them about, if this happens, what would you do? And I think what Silvia was saying about communication is so important. Will they be available? Say, for instance, you do something on Wednesday morning, and Wednesday at 5 o'clock, you notice there are some issues. Will there be somebody literally you can phone to find out what's going on? I think that's key. And then, like you're saying about transparency and recording everything, it's crucial. Great. Let's move on to the next question. And by the way, if you hear a noise, it's just me putting the questions on there. So satisfying. I've been told to start a corporate blog for my company. What would you do if you had to start a blog today? Who wants to go first? Go for it, Kyle. Oh,
I don't mind going. Oh, I'll be
go,
really
go.
quick. I'll be really quick. I suppose that the challenge here is I don't necessarily know what they mean by corporate blog, but I'm going to take it to mean a blog for a corporate entity that talks about their services and talks about their area of interest. I think the first thing to say is I think it's a really positive thing. We can talk about we can talk about the SEO things we do. I think the first thing I would do, and it was Sophia at the Search London a couple of weeks ago spoke about this, is go talk to the sales team, go talk to the customer service team, find out what questions they get quite a lot. So collaborate with them and use that as the starting point for the kind of content you're going to write. And then obviously we can talk more about using a tool like Also Asked or Ahrefs to find keywords. But I think talking to those internal teams that speak to customers the most, you're going to get some real gems in terms of content.
Great. Silvia?
Yeah, I totally agree with Kyle in that. So the first thing will be the internal data. So check, as he said, with the sales teams, even the customer services team, because the same, they will have like questions and things that maybe potential users or users they're asking. And then another thing will be like, yeah, so think about the strategy. So just not start like publishing for the sake of it. You need a strategy. You need to check out your resources, how many posts you can do per month, and then planning ahead, everything. And then, as also Kale says, keyword research will be another thing very important for this strategy. Tools, the same. I will recommend Answer the Public. People also ask for getting these questions, because sometimes companies, they can get into, okay, I want to talk about this because I think people will be interested, but you really need the data and to know, not to have a feeling or guessing, but okay, what is really the topics that our audience might be interested. So that will be my advice.
Perfect. Joe?
No, I think they summed it up very well. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's really amazing. I guess the only thing I would add is why a blog, possibly a podcast instead? Are there other things that you could be doing? And thinking about just what Silvia said, really, thinking about who you're doing the blog for, who's the end reader, what are they interested in, what are their pain points. I've had many blog successes and many blog failures over my time. And part of it is also just being prepared that it will probably look quite different to when you first start it. So part of it is, I do agree that you need a strategy and you need to think about who you're targeting and making sure that you're writing on topics that people are searching for and care about. But I also think there is an element of, once you get something up, you'll get an idea of what people are actually, what they're consuming, what they're not. And you can, and also anything editorial that I've worked on, I've always gone back to as well and looked at things like Search Console and looked at what maybe I'm getting impressions for, but not getting clicks for. And maybe I need to be a bit more thorough on that topic, for example. And search competitors are another thing, just looking at what other websites are doing, particularly, or other similar websites, but maybe in other countries and things like that, I find can be quite useful just for inspiration. But yeah, I spent a lot of time. I used to run a blog years and years ago, about, I don't know how long ago, but I used to spend so much time on something that just didn't get any traction. And then one day it did. And it was just that whole thing of just chipping away and chipping away. So yeah, be prepared for that. Next, I'm going to take two. Going to start with this one. So Silvia, I'm going to start with you, if that's okay. This is, we teach languages. Is it okay to have two different languages on the same page? So let's assume that this is maybe a language school and that they've got a page with both maybe some English questions and answers, and they want to show what that looks like in Spanish.
Yeah. Yeah, usually the main recommendation is, or the best practice is like, use only one language per page, right? And then that's why international SEO comes in, and usually they have like subfolders or different websites, but it's because it's a different kind of subject. It's a company that is selling something in different languages. Because of them, for what you say, is just like a language school, right? So obviously they need both languages in the same page. And I don't think it's going to be an issue, because what they need to make sure is, for example, if they're an English school teaching English to Spanish, for example, then they need to make sure that the page is in their main language. So like the title, the H1, meta description, and all the main things are optimized for the user. So if they're teaching, so if they're teaching English to Spanish, so there will be everything in Spanish, right? Because people, they will search in Spanish. So that's the thing. You need to make sure that everything is for the main user, right? Or if your target audience is German people, so everything should be in German, and then you will have the English. For example, you have a page about how to say the time in English for German people. So everything, the main page will be in German, like the title, as I was saying, all the metadata, and then some of the content, it will be in English because they're teaching that, right?
Perfect. Great. Joe, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I think Sylvia summed it up very well. Thank you, Sylvia.
Yeah, super. Kyle, you happy to go to the next one?
I'm very happy. Yeah.
By the way, Joe, you're monitoring the chat, right? So if anyone has any questions or anything, because I haven't got that up, I've just got you guys up. So I believe that totally to you. The next question is, okay, so how do I spot leaks in my web analytics? And because Carl's here, we're going to go with GA4. We'll focus on GA4 and leaks meaning losing traffic or money. Kyle, are you happy to kick off?
Yeah, I think so. There's so many areas we could go down here. I think the first thing in terms of spotting leaks is set up custom alerts. Like that overall, we can dive deep into some of the tools that are available, but I think overall, set up some custom alerts. And you can set up custom alerts based on conversion rate.
Okay.
So I think that's really important. So you could and I think even for GA4 for web, you can set it up hourly. So if you are seeing a huge drop, you set it up by your own standards, or you can say to GA4, let me know if there's something that they describe as an anomaly. Then you get emailed and you can go and check. So there's that. So yeah, if there's one takeaway from this one is set up your custom alerts. And that is in my course, Joe. But yeah, I think the next thing is you'll want to customize your report section so that you can have the metrics that you value. And again, I'm just going to focus on session conversion rate so you can spot you get lots of traffic from organic social,
Yeah.
and you used to have a conversion rate of X and now it's this. There's a way to spot leaks. And then I think I would set up some funnels as well for your key customer journeys. So really useful for e-commerce, and with GA4 you've got some e-commerce specific events that you can track where you're losing people, so where they abandon in a particular checkout process, for example. But you can do that for SaaS, you can do that for any website really. So that those are three things. But then I think the first thing overall of that is make sure you are tracking exactly what you want to track, because I think that is key. I think it's really easy to look in analytics and go, "What? Oh, this has happened." But actually, if you take a step back and think, "What do I want to track? What's important to me?" and use those as the metrics for understanding what's going right and what's going wrong.
Yeah,
So
that's
yeah, I think there's four things there.
No, thank you, Ron. That's a very good point about what you're saying about just understand what you want to track, because I think you can get overwhelmed with what's in GA4 and Google Search Console too. We've got lots of tips that everyone's sharing today, Carl and Silvia. If you are watching after we've gone live and you enjoy the video, please click a like. And also for those that want to take part in SEO Office Hours in the future and would like to be part of the live Zoom, please join us please sign up for goodsignals.com/SEO-office hours, and I will put that in the chat. So back to you, Mike.
God, you're so good at that stuff. I'm really bad at that. Kyle, is it in your world, do you call them leaks? What do you call issues?
Yeah, I've never called them leaks before, but I think I might do.
Yeah, it's quite cool, isn't it?
Call them issues, challenges. I think it depends on the language that my clients use as well. I don't think I have a particular style. I think for me, it can be quite easy for me to fall into GA4 like jargon. So I tend to lean on what other people are saying before I start to throw in my phrases, because it can be so jargonistic. So yeah, I don't think I have, but I'm not gonna start. I'm
Let's
gonna
start
start
using
using
it.
leaks going forward.
Great, let's make people adopt it. Perfect. Sylvia, what about you? Do you have anything to add around spotting leaks in your web analytics?
No, I think that he did an amazing job, Kyle. So especially the alerts is like the main thing to take into consideration. But yeah.
And so when you were saying about alerts, Carl, you mentioned conversion rate. What about just traffic in general? Because obviously, if your organic traffic drops, but your conversion rate goes up, say you've got more meaningful traffic, but it's less, that might not flag up. So do you also do anything with traffic levels?
Yeah, GA4 has some, I think they have 5 standard, they call them custom insights, but I call them custom alerts. But yeah, you can absolutely set out really with what you want. But it's traffic I tend to focus on. And again, you can hone in on a particular channel for that as well, I think.
Yeah.
Revenue if you're e-commerce, and conversion rate. Those are the 3. The traffic one I think is quite important, because if you're working with developers and they, for whatever reason, remove your Google tag or your GTM container for fun, and then you're not tracking anything, that tends to be a
Yeah.
good reason to set up custom alerts for traffic.
Cool. The only reason I mention that is we've done quite a lot of A/B testing, and it's one of those things that is quite easy to increase conversion rates because you just remove everything from a page and just have a big buy now button, but it's going to absolutely kill your organic traffic. So that's why I was just in case anybody was thinking about doing that, come from it from the other angle. Okay, we're almost halfway there. This question is, oh, cool. This is an interesting one. I'm going to share a couple of links actually, and no one's doing anything wrong here. So I think we can just share them in the chat. I will just put them in here now. So if I click chat, and here we go. So the question here is referring to the anchor text on these pages. For anybody that's watching on YouTube, the pages are basically, they're like real estate companies such as Rightmove, Zillow, and On the Market. For their location pages, they've got anchor text on the pages that then go to other pages, which, so for instance, on Rightmove's London page, they have a ton of anchor text pointing to other pages with things like a small bungalow in East London, and then right under that, small flat in East London, for example. So it's really specific and tons of anchor text, and they've all got it. And the question here is just referring to the anchor text on these pages. Is this best practice? Who wants to start? Joe?
I'd like to say that with this, actually, it's a similar situation to the first question about is adding links, is commenting on forums, is that good link building strategy? Ages ago, the more links you had to the page, the better. When you want to rank for a certain term, the better anchor text that you had, there's more internal links, the better. Now it's more about making sure that you have enough content really on those pages if you're linking to them. If it's useful for the customer and you actually have a category to those actual pages, let's say detached houses in London, you've actually got a category for that and you've got unique information about it, then it should be fine to do that. But I would be a bit careful about just creating links for the sake of it. I would actually suggest that when you look at creating internal links, because it is something that you can either overdo or underdo, you actually do a crawl within Screaming Frog, and you can actually see where you're actually, if you've got some orphan pages or not. And then I'd actually focus on maximizing where you've got those orphan pages. So make sure you've got those internal links. And if you've got too many, maybe internal links going to one particular page, look to redistribute that, make it more balanced. And of course, there's other tools that can help you with that. I believe one might be in links, but first of all, analyze what you do have on your site. If it's looking like it's too much and you're linking to pages that don't actually have much content, no, that's not good. But if it's for a good user experience and you actually got a category page for it, then yes, it should be fine. But I would say that old expression, it depends for this particular instance.
Silvia?
Yeah, I do agree with Joe. And also the thing is, these three websites, they are big brands also, so Rightmove, Zillow, and On the Market. I'm sure that they have high authority, so they can have a lot of links from pages, because the more links you have in a page, then the more link equity goes to other pages. So also, as Joe said, it can be also like the wrong thing to do. So it depends how you implement all of these links, but because they are like high authoritative websites, and it's also case by case, right? So for them, it might be working doing that. But also, as Joe says, it's important to select your own like internal link strategy, right? And check what would you, and yeah, using the tools like the crawls and everything that you say, yeah, I totally agree with that.
Yeah, and also just wanted to say thanks for your comments, Sylvia, and for Chris has just chimed in. Anchor text tells the search engines and users what to expect when you land, so it's important that it meets the expectation. Yeah, so you actually have that proper category or product page for that. Don't force a link, or it will be considered spammy. So as we've just been mentioning.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chris and Sylvia.
Kyle, have you got anything to add?
Yeah, other than it's clear that I can't afford to live in London. That's
Nobody
one
can.
thing. I think Sylvia said it about these being huge companies, and I'm sure they've got testing to tell them which links are valuable, which links are driving clicks and that kind of thing. But what I like about Rightmove is that on their category pages, they have links to like houses for sale in London, detached houses for sale in London. But when you go into the properties, those links are removed and it just has similar properties, which kind of tells me that it's probably a joint user experience / SEO strategy that they've undertaken with this. I don't think there's a right or wrong answer here. I think they're not hugely valuable for Rightmove, but they might be hugely valuable for a much smaller SaaS company who are trying to provide hints to Google about the value of a particular page.
Yeah.
So yeah, classic. It depends.
Does that mean that you guys don't have on your website pages from your SEO page going SEO in Tower Hamlets, SEO in Bermondsey, SEO in Southwark, SEO?
Guilty. Guilty. Yeah.
I think so. I was just gonna say, I think maybe this might have also come off the back of once upon a time when we had blogs and we had like tags,
Mm.
and then you tagged and you had categories, so you could actually try and rank for that in 2 separate areas. But yeah, that was also a good answer from Kyle too.
Yeah, sometimes I find with some like companies that I work with in quite competitive industries, sometimes people tend to copy each other too. So obviously these are 3 massive brands in that particular industry, but sometimes I find that you work with somebody and they're monitoring their competitors, and then whatever their competitors are doing, they then want to do just to make sure. It's almost like keeping up with the Joneses, thinking if Google's going to reward that, we want to make sure that we get rewarded as well. So sometimes I think that there can be that. I think these particular websites though are really amazing in terms of not necessarily these pages, but going through them, they're really good to learn from in terms of how they manage content, because they manage to put tons and tons of content, particularly like Zillow and Rightmove. They manage to put tons of content on a page without it feeling like there's tons of content. So they're quite good brands to learn from. But like obviously Anchor Text gives, like Kyle was saying, users and also Google context about what the next page is about, like Chris was saying. So that kind of makes sense, but I just wouldn't overdo it. Like these it does seem a little bit extreme, doesn't it? Especially when I know what you mean from a user experience point of view, but they've also got search functionalities, they've got categories, and they've got all those things. Yeah, it's probably a bit overkill to do that on your website.
Just another point, and actually Chris raised this one. Competitors are not always doing a good job. And what another thing that you mentioned too, Mike, is keeping up with the Joneses. So I think it's really good to do a competitive analysis and look at a keyword gap. But if you're just copying what your competitors are doing, if they also get penalized by Google or something else happens, then you as well. So I would say handle it with caution what your competitors are doing. Find out what they're doing, but also find the gap in the market and move there.
Yeah,
Totally. Yeah.
Totally agree. So Chris has said, Michael, competitors are often not doing a good job. And I agree. And then also copying that is, I think I remember years and years ago doing a CXL course. And one of the things that has always stuck with me is like somebody else's solution. It's don't copy your competitors, because they're doing that for a different problem to you, and every website, every user is different, and if they're doing it badly, then that's even worse, just copying that. Okay, so this is a related question, so I've just grabbed, which is, it's common to see buttons with text like learn more instead of what the page is actually about. Would it be beneficial for SEO to have what it actually is? So say instead of learn more, it might be, let's take a Rightmove one bedroom homes for sale in LA. Would that be more useful than learn more? Kyle, would you be happy starting with this?
Yeah, I think we can spend a lot of time discussing whether the value from an SEO point of view, but I think that one thing to say from the start is that anchor text like learn more or here or click here aren't very good from an accessibility point of view. And over and above SEO, we need to think about the different kind of users on our websites. Having a button like that says click or learn more, it goes against the WCAG guidelines in terms of accessibility. So there's that. And I think there's some tests that have come out from a few SEO agencies that have tested whether they use learn more or learn more about keyword X, whatever, that shows there has been a slight bump. And so maybe it's potentially valuable, but I would go back to the user always and say that accessibility guidelines suggest we should be as descriptive as possible when it comes to anchor text. So yes, don't use learn more. Actually say where the link is going to. Yeah, that would be my 2 cents.
Sylvia?
Yeah, I do agree with Kyle too, but also, especially the user experience, because it's SEO, but it's user experience, it's both. And I will say also it depends, because it depends on where are you going to use it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the commodity, but it's because in SEO, there's no one solution for everything, right? The important thing is to test things. For example, this person that is asking about this, maybe they can try in their website already. They can set up an experiment and then, or A/B testing and saying, okay, how are we finding if we say this message or this other message? So I won't say like about best practices or not. It's about what is best for your users. Where can you change? How can you make it like the best possible experience, and also respecting obviously the accessibility and everything.
Great. Joe?
No, I think we've summed it up quite well. So thank you, Carl and Silvia.
I've just got one thing to add, which it doesn't, I just checked and it doesn't exist anymore, but I do remember years ago, it was probably about, I don't know, 6, 7 years ago, Disney used to rank #1 for the word exit. And the reason for that is lots of adult websites ask for your age. And if you are not of age, you click exit or you click enter. And if you click exit, they used to send you to Disney. So that was just that doesn't exist, that doesn't happen anymore, but it was just a really random, just a really random thing that used to go around. Great, there you go. I read that in a blog post, obviously, just to be clear. Next one. Okay, so the industry I work, so that we were actually meant to do this last week and we didn't get to it, so sorry about that. So we're doing it this week. The industry I work in is dull. It's like a combination of insurance, finance, and air conditioning. I'm finding it almost impossible to earn links. Is it possible? Silvia, how would you feel about starting with this one?
Yeah, I can go for it. Yeah, so I think that some industries might be more trickier than others, right? But it's about finding the right angle. So for links, it should be, you don't need to maybe write about, maybe with the blogs, right? You don't need to write about the specific service or specific thing that your company is doing, but you can try to find something that is more creative, that is related to it, and then people will be interested. And there's like a lot of also, sometimes you just need some extra help when it's something like that. And there's a lot of amazing agencies that they do PR, digital PR, and they can create campaigns that is related to your industry, but in a very compelling way. Yeah, and it's a very effective way of doing it, like collating with data, or there's different ways that you can do something like more fun and more that can attract more links.
Great.
Yeah. I just want to say as well, Sylvia's mentioned about the other agencies. If you are working obviously with others in the company, it's not just a one person show. I would suggest you do a simple brainstorming. You all get together around a table if you're meeting in a table, or you can do it actually virtually, where you actually have a piece of paper, you put down the name of or something that's interesting about your industry or what you want to get links for, and then you put it around, you fold the piece of paper and someone else writes something, and then at the end you've actually got 15 different ones. Another way to do that obviously would be to do it obviously in a chat window. But the thing is, sometimes if you're so close to the product, you might think it's really boring, but actually if you look at some of the data that you may have, it could be actually quite useful and insightful, particularly something like insurance, or maybe around air conditioning. It could be something about, did you know that you need to actually clear air filters for X amount of times in a few years, and the reasons for not doing so, as in health wise, versus why you should. Very cheap, and also it makes it much more efficient. So I think really use what you have if you don't have much resources. So internally you can ask about, do brainstorming, and then 2, look at what data you have and see if you can come up with an interesting idea from that data.
Great. Kyle?
Yeah, I'm gonna piggyback on what Chris said in the chat about Reddit. And I think Reddit might be a nice, because Joe, you said about what it might be really boring, but there's a niche for everybody, and there's probably going to be a subreddit for everybody. So I wonder if it's worth checking out the subreddits for that particular area, for that particular niche, finding out what are the kind of queries, what are the kind of questions people are asking, and then answer those queries on your site, on your website. And I'm wondering if that's a really natural way to start generating links and generating traffic as well, because you could certainly potentially get position 1 or 2 in Google by answering those questions that people ask on Reddit. I think that's potentially another strategy.
Yeah, that's a really good idea as well. And just back onto the forum, or I would say the communities, I'd like to add, don't forget your communities. If you are maybe a small company, if you're part of other communities like Digital Marketing Union or Women in Tech SEO or Mujeres in SEO, ask people there as well if they can help you brainstorm. You could just have a 30-minute session with them, and you can realize that sometimes you can find that you've got a lot more ideas than you would have thought for. But I do like the idea of Reddit. So thank you, Ka and Chris.
Yeah, I think from the question, I think this person just needs to be inspired. And I think you can do that with other people. I think you can do that with brainstorming. One of my favorite things to do is just go and get inspiration by looking at what other companies are doing in other industries. So you can either look at some big companies and look at their backlink profiles and try and work out what campaigns got them those links, or you can just look at things like, I don't know, a big newspaper that you might want to try and get links from, or magazines, and see what they're writing about in terms of companies. A really good example, so I imagine blenders, I don't imagine that's the most interesting industry, but then you had that Will It Blend series where they were just putting phones in and so on. And so I think this person just needs to be inspired and go and look at things like that and think, what can you do with whatever the product is or service that they're offering? We've worked in some really dull industries, but you make it fun by coming up with ideas and yeah, like anything. And sometimes you can create a story as well. There are ways of doing that where you can work with partners, like for instance, Guinness World Records, where you could do something like that, or you could do something nice for charity, for example, or something where you want it to be related to what you're doing. But for example, those two together, when at my old company, we built the Guinness World Records world's largest bra and put it on the side of a building and that was for Vanish. And it was this huge bra that it was one that was based on one from Debenhams. But that's obviously a large scale version of that. But that was a part of that was about earning coverage and links and so on. But can do other things like go and get some research. Andy Barr, who was on here a few weeks ago, he talked about the pub factor as well. And just when you're coming up with these ideas, thinking about what are those stories that the people that buy from you would be talking about and want to tell others about and so on. So yeah, I think there's loads of things like that. I think once you get in that zone and you start thinking about ideas and whether that's with other people or yeah, just that I think they just need to be inspired. That's my feedback.
I think this person also may be too close to product and just thinking, oh God, it's boring. It's not about exciting tech or what's the latest Christmas trend coming out. I would say, yeah, also take a step back. So we've got loads of advice from our speakers and from our audience as well. So for those that have been watching on YouTube, do click a like button and subscribe to the Good Signals YouTube channel, because we'll have more of these SEO office hours.
Great. Next question. Kyle, I'm going to start with you if that's all right. And I have done it so that you can share your screen if you need to. The question is, I missed the landing page report segmented by organic traffic in Google Analytics. How do I get a like for like in GA4?
Okay, I have hopefully shared the right screen.
Yes, I can see Analytics.
You can see it.
Yeah.
Okay, good. If not, you're seeing my Spotify, which nobody wants to see.
Yeah, especially you're wrapped, you know.
No one wants to know what niche music I'm into. So yeah, that's absolutely possible. And I think so. As standard, I'm in the report section in GA4 here. Selena Rupp, by the way, is my neighbor. She makes fabulous jewelry. If you need any more Christmas presents, go to Selena Rupp's website. She does some lovely Highland cow jewelry. So by standard, you've got a landing page report already built, which does exactly what it says on the tin, shows the landing page. But if you wanted to just see landing pages that come from organic, there's a couple of things you can do. But I'm going to focus on this filter option here. So you can click add filter up here and then select a dimension. So let's choose session default channel group, exactly matches organic search. And you can get more granular if you want with this. If you just wanted to see Google, you could just choose Google's source medium. If you wanted to look at Bing, for example, there are other search engines do exist. You could even just filter on Bing's source medium. So that's a really simple way of doing it, is just adding that filter at the top. And now this is just organic landing pages. But one of the nice features of GA4 is the customization option. So you can, if you're an admin or an editor of a GA4 site, you can click on this pencil here. Sometimes I think it looks like a cigarette. Click on that, and then you can customize a report completely. So here you'd add that filter where you would add in your session default channel group exactly matches organic search, save it as a new report, and then you can add it into your suite of reports on the left-hand side. Can you see down here, I've done one, Blue Peter style for anybody that's in the UK,
Here's what I
Blue
did
Peter
earlier.
style. Here's one I did earlier for Search London, actually, where I've got my SEO landing page report ready, and it's already pre-filtered by organic search. And just for fun, you can even add pictures. So I think I said this at the Search London. There's one example of a client I've used where I've created specific reports for specific people, and I've actually taken an image of themselves and added that to their report so they can see which one it is. But yeah,
That's
that would be
great.
my two ways: is add a filter up here or create an absolutely customized report, which you then add to your reports on the left-hand side.
Awesome.
That's
Thanks so
my
much for sharing and for sharing your screen. And obviously you can also go into Google Search Console as well and get some of that information. Silvia, how often are you in analytics or Search Console with what you do? How important are those tools for you?
Yeah, no, it is important. Yeah, I do need to check for the performance of my clients, but because now I'm independent, so I don't have to do much reporting per se. So I
Yeah.
will use it more for specific projects or looking for specific data.
Yeah.
Yeah, for example, if I'm doing like a tech audit, I usually have to dig into both, right? To check how they're performing and try to spot issues. So right now, yeah, I'm quite happy not to do as much reporting as before. Yes.
Yeah, because I think in some agencies it can happen where you're reporting for the sake of reporting and not necessarily gathering lots of insight. But actually, we do have a question for Karina, to you, Kyle. How do you add that picture?
It was so long ago, I forgot how I turned a picture into an emoji. But for the emojis, it's literally just copying and pasting. So you copy the emoji and then you just paste it in to when you're creating your report. You can change the name of your report. You literally just copy and paste it in. But yeah, I've forgotten. I saw the question. I was like, how did I do that? And I completely forgotten. But I'll find out for you
Yeah,
and I'll
or
send it
you,
over to you.
yeah, you can also, Sylvia and Carl, please also drop your details in the chat so that if anyone has any questions afterwards, that they can contact you straight away.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool.
Great. So I've got 3 questions left and we've got 5-6 minutes. So we'll try and get through
Quick
them.
fire one.
Yeah, that's right. Although these are not quick fire questions, that's the problem. We'll just go for it. First one is I've gone freelance. So we'll start with Silvia on this one. I've gone freelance. What are some of the best questions to ask a new client?
Okay, so I think that it will come with time to have an onboarding and pitching process. But the main things, is like the budget, what's the budget that they have, what does success looks like for them, what are they trying to achieve, and then understand. But it's really important to understand, ask them about their pain points. In my case, for example, I usually do this first, like me, I think a lot of people, they do this SEO discovery call at the beginning. So is that you really need to understand the client, their needs, and then how you can assist them. So you need to make all the questions to understand what are they trying to achieve, right?
Sylvia, I just wanted to ask, because you've been freelancing for nearly 4 years now, right?
Yeah, 3.5 years now. Yes.
Yeah, and you've been doing it for Spanish and UK and US markets. Have you found that when you're doing the freelance, the SEO discovery call not only works in one market, but in all the markets that you operate in?
It works in all of the markets. Yeah. I have different clients, international clients, and what it can be different is the way they look at success or the things that they are looking for. Maybe there's metrics or things that is different in different markets, but it's always a good way to understand the client, right?
Yeah, and so it's managing expectations. So great to have that. What does success look like for you? And then you can work towards that. Thank you.
Yes.
Kyle, do you have anything to add?
No, I think I think that what Sylvia said about what success looked like, I think is the most important question, because then you know how to communicate what's working and what's not working. And I think that is best advice anybody can give when going freelance is just be open and honest and communicate as best as you can.
Yeah. The only thing I would add is an author called Matt Crabtree, who's written a book. I think it's called something like Free Time to Fulfilled or something like that. And he's a consultant, but I used to work with him years and years ago. And I never forget him telling me about only ask bloody good questions. And so he would do a ton of research before meeting a client for the first time and just looking at what's available publicly and so on, look at their website, have that stuff. And so rather than ask questions that you already know the answers to, you can form questions that kind of shows that you know what you know, but actually try and get to those things that really matter. And that's something that we do now, where and it's worked really well, where we try and really understand the business, and then we come up with questions with things that we actually want to know, as opposed to just ticking some of the boxes that as an SEO you might feel like you have to. But yeah, I usually have about 3 to 5 bloody good questions there. Joe, do you have anything to add?
I just wanted to say that I also like to give a questionnaire. So this is a questionnaire, just like the initial stages, it's before the SEO discovery, because then you can find out a bit more information about them and you don't have to ask that on the call. So then in your discovery call, you can actually get into the, oh, you talked about X, Y, and Z. So can we go into A, B, and C? And also actually Chris mentioned, it also helps suggest to a client that if they were lost, for example, their KPIs are too, I think Chris, maybe you mean is for try and focus on sort of the KPIs and try and have very smart KPIs.
Yeah. We'll skip one of the questions, but this is the last one, and it's a really big one, so we'll try and do it in 2 minutes. And it's also very important, so I should have prioritized this one, so I'm sorry I didn't. And if we don't cover it, we'll cover it next time. So we don't have any business reasons to change our homepage, but I've been reading that search engines like fresh content. Any ideas on how to do that? Does that make sense? So they've got a homepage, they don't actually need to change it, they're happy with the design and so on, but they feel like they should have some fresh content on there. 10 seconds each on this one. Joe?
I would say it does depend on actually what your product is about, because if you actually have a new promotion, then you can put that on your homepage, or a new event that you're running, you could just put that in a small section on the site.
Great. Silvia?
Yeah, I don't know if I can do like a short answer.
Sorry.
Yeah, because it's very broad also, but it depends. It's the same. But if they really think that they need to update the page because of the content, as you said, go ahead, but not because they think they need to be fresh. Like fresh content is better for ranking, because that's the thing. I don't really know if that's the real question. Like they think that they need to change it, even they actually don't think they need to change it. So I will say, don't do things just because you think it's good for SEO. Do things because it's good also for your user, right? Yeah, I will be trying to do like a short answer.
Yeah, sorry, that's so hard. Kyle?
Yeah, I think if they've started that corporate blog, then maybe have a carousel of that blog. But yeah, I think I'm with Silvia. I don't think freshness is as important for a homepage. I always think a homepage is for brand terms. I always think. So I think the freshness is probably not as key an indicator to Google about whether or not to rank this page if they're searching for a particular brand. But yeah, maybe get a carousel of that fabulous new blog content.
Yeah.
And I just got one last point from Sophie. If you're not an e-commerce store and so you don't have a sale or a discount, then perhaps expert tips or unique events of that week, it could work really well in spaces like the travel industry.
Great. I've just quickly scribbled a list. So you could also, if that was something you really cared about, feature new products, testimonials, case studies in our industry, new case studies, featuring those. In the wedding industry, they have like real brides stories and all that. Anyway, let's stop because it's now 32 minutes past and I said we'd stop at 1:30. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you to our speakers and to everybody that's come on the call.
Yeah, and thank you everyone for being so interactive. Please do join us next week when we have Christmas Jumper Day, and sign up if you want to be sent a link to join us live at goodsignals.com/SEO Office Hours. And we look forward to seeing you in 1 week's time. Have a great weekend.
Great. Have a great week. Thank you.
Bye, guys. Bye.
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 Thank you. Bye-bye.